Everything's set up here. So good morning. First, I want to thank you, Dale, so much for inviting me. I think that I've been talking about speaking to this group for like 3 years. So I'm really excited to be here. And before I really get into this whole education, ma'am in the front, about Google+, I actually want to kind of understand who I'm talking to. Because people that I talk to and train and consult with, they're all at different levels of their education in social media. So with a show of hands, I'd like to see how many of you have joined Google Plus within the last 2 years. Okay? Within the last year. Okay? And out of the people that have joined in the last 2 years, how many of you are active in using Google Plus as a business marketing platform? Like you're driving business from Google Plus. All right, a little bit. Okay. How many of you are have a good understanding of how to deliver search results with Google+? Nobody. Good. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you this presentation. This training is really geared towards how to leverage Google+ for SEO. As Dale mentioned, I'm very involved with SEO. That's what my company's done since day one. But because you guys seem like you could learn a lot here, I'm also going to dip through each functionality of Google+. So you know from A to Z what to do and then how to use it for SEO. So every time I train, everybody's like, oh, it's so comprehensive. That's good, but I want you to use it. So that's why I like when people take notes. All right. So just a little bit more about me, just quickly, kind of like why am I here? Why am I credible enough to be standing up here delivering this training and this presentation? So I've been involved in online marketing forever, since 1999. Actually, we were talking about that. And my focus has always been how to use the web in a cost-effective way to drive brand lift, engagement, and make your audience, because the tagline of my company is online audience development, your most viral marketing person, right? So when I do that and I work with executives, it's this cross-section between SEO and social media, right? So it's a lot about how do we reduce media spend and drive organic visibility. Okay, so I do a lot of things. I write, I consult, I have books, whatever. But I'm going to move on to Google+. So here's what you can expect to learn today. This is where you start taking notes. First, why Google+? Why is it important? So as Dale mentioned, a lot of people know me as a LinkedIn trainer, right? It's just one of the things that I do. But in the last year, Google+ is now kind of becoming my favorite. So on ClickZ, for example, I've written like 3 articles in a series on Google+. So Google+ is really important. I'm going to talk to you guys about why it's important as a business tool and a communications tool. And then how do you get started on Google+? So you all have profiles, but it makes sense for me to at least go through what are the best practices in a profile, right? Then how do you use Google+ for brand building? You guys are in communications. Afterwards, I'm only going to talk for maybe a half hour. Then I want to get Q&A, and I want to understand what you guys do, because everybody uses social media differently based on their business goals. I know that because I consult for executives in social media. So how can you use G+ as a brand building tool? And then your profile, how can it, as a web page, drive SEO rank? Google+ circles, right? Google+ circles are really important to how you drive visibility in search to people that you want to influence, right? So I like you. You nod in the back. I like you a lot. But these, so your Google+ circles, you want to think of it like I'm a LinkedIn trainer. So I would say, who are your best connections on LinkedIn, right? Who are the ones like Dale, for example, that refer me to people and, drive me business? So who are those influencers? And that's how you want to think about circles. So I'm going to go through that. Google+ Hangouts, hopefully it's working right now. So Google+ Hangouts are useful in many, many ways. As a business tool, like replacing Skype, for example, to do, as I was talking to someone yesterday, using it in a social way. But today we're going to talk about how to use it in a business way to webcast, capture that webcast, and then optimize that webcast through YouTube, which is integrated into Google+. Google+ hashtags and +1s. In my world, when we look at factors of SEO, of the 20 major factors of SEO, one of those major factors is what we call social signaling. So these little functionalities of Google+ as a public platform drive what's called, they pass search rank. hashtags, and +1. So we're going to talk about that. And then lastly, Google Plus communities. So if you're involved in LinkedIn like I am, you might think about the LinkedIn groups that you're in and how you develop relationships through those groups. Google Plus communities, because as I'm going to go through in a minute, the types of people that are involved in Google Plus are pretty impressive people, from academia to business leaders to world leaders. So you can just imagine the types of rich discussions that go on with Google Plus communities. So it's worth it for you guys to engage in these communities. Okay. So again, what is Google Plus and why is it crucial? So Starbucks right across the street, right? So they use Google Plus in such a great way to drive branding, to drive brand lift, to deliver their promotions in such a way that drive people within the Google Plus community, coffee lovers like me and most people that I know, or tea lovers, to their website. So Google Plus inherently, good morning, Google Plus inherently is not a promotional platform, but it enables brands like, if you want to take a look at some great examples, I think, Adidas, American Airlines, Starbucks are probably my top 3, that are using Google Plus in such a way to engage with their own customers, their own communities, and deliver results of promotions to what? Their website, to microsites, to campaigns, to couple with SEM campaigns, right? They're using it in such a way, like I said in the beginning, why did I start in online marketing, is to deliver brand lift in an organic way, and Google Plus allows you to do that. This is their business page. So it's a good example for you to take a look at on how businesses use Google Plus to drive visibility within Google Plus, but then take it off page to drive what we call conversion. So a recent Forbes study of the top social media channels concluded that Google Plus is going to be a major social network in 2014 for B2B, and that's my focus, B2B. So, you know, the fact that Google Plus came up and really everybody, it was like one of the most skeptical social networks. Why? Because Google had 3 failed attempts at creating a social network. So everybody's like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Let them stick with, you know, search marketing, right? But now here they are with a social network that, like, I'm falling in love with because it's cross-platform and it embeds all of the Google products, right? It's so smart. So in that it's a social network layered over, as you can imagine, if you use, which I'm sure you do, I don't know, you look so happy in the back, so I just keep pointing. So a social layered network, it's layered over all the Google services and products. So what does that mean? First of all, expanded reach, right? So what Google Plus has been doing, like if you know LinkedIn, LinkedIn flipped over all these profiles, right, in 2012. Google Plus is doing the same thing. They've captured their embedded YouTube base, tied that together with the first influencers in Google Plus, and now their total user base is 500 million users. It doesn't mean that all of them are active, but more and more people are becoming active. So when you think about when you go to Google Plus as a platform, right, you can connect in a community, for example, with someone you would never, ever meet, like a professor at Stanford, because there's like lots of academia there. So you asked about how can you learn about social media. Google Plus, to me, is like an online university for everything. Okay, because like there's TED Talks there and all these other things. Anyway, so you can take those conversations right into email, because to be on Google Plus, guess what? You have to have a Gmail account. So it's very important. It's also a source and destination for promoting content, event, brands within and outside of Google Plus. So you guys are in communications. I don't know what you do yet, but I'm a speaker for PR Newswire and PR News. I'm more involved with PR News. And I can tell you that they have a good grip on these social networks and how to use them for their clients. So it's really a great way to drive visibility around launches of new products, right? If you're doing, like I have clients that are involved with like Kickstarter campaigns, you know, this is a good place to do what we call market testing, right? Across Google Plus. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is how Google Plus as a social network is tied directly into what's called personal search engine result pages, right? So what that really means, as I get into it, is if you have somebody in your circles, right, and they're searching for something that's related to something that you do, more than likely, if you've posted something about it and done it the right way, which I'm going to teach you guys on how to do, then that post, or if you commented in, let's say, a Google Plus community stream, is publicly passed through to Google. So more than likely, it's someone in your circle could find your Google Plus profile. So that's important. Now, I know I'm in ASJA and I'm involved with authors here and writers, right? So a major bonus of Google Plus is Google Plus marks authorship for anywhere that you contribute on the web, right? And I'm sure you guys do if you're in communications. So wherever you contribute in terms of if you're a blogger or like me, like a contributor, a guest contributor, whatever you are, right? That passes through in the world of SEO to drive back links from other sites to your Google Plus profile. So what does it do? It drives up what's called credibility in search rank around you as an individual author on whatever topic it is that you say you have your thought leadership or your expertise. And then finally, the thing that I think is the reason why Google Plus is edging above the other social networks is it is the #1 social network for delivering rich media and related communications. And in a recent eMarketer study, they said over 93% of social media posts, it doesn't matter regardless of the channel, are interacted with if they're accompanied by rich media, meaning video, photography, infographics, imagery, blah, 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 blah. So it's very important. So who's on Google Plus? I'm not going to talk about politics today, but Barack Obama, regardless of what anybody thinks about him, has done honestly the best job of using social media to drive branding. So back in 2008, I delivered a speech at the Javits Center. Maybe you knew me back then, Dale, I don't even know. On online PR, and I used him as my example. So he was one of the first business leaders to actually utilize Google Plus in many ways. A, for branding, to drive visibility around voters, and B, he actually delivered a Google Hangout back in January of 2013, which a friend of mine was actually on, as a town hall to do Q&A, which I thought was really cool. So, you know, who's on Google Plus? People like him. Richard Branson, who's a top leader and LinkedIn influencer. Academia, which to me is the most exciting thing, because I can go there and learn. Celebrity brands, similar to how they would use Twitter, right? Major company brands, and I think most importantly for everybody in the room, your peers and colleagues, because in the world of what we call the social ecosystem, and my main interest in helping my clients is all about sales. So, you know, we always look at low-hanging fruit in social media. Where are you connected? Like all you guys in this room, how can you connect business to each other, refer business to each other, right? So when we look at social networks online, we look at those same types of things. So who do I know? That would be my circle. And then who do they know? That would be my extended circle, right? So these are your peers and colleagues, and if you're visible enough in Google Plus, which means you take the time to contribute to it and get involved, then your peers and colleagues can be the ones that do things like +1 your comments, +1 your posts. Those are signals to search that is relevant content that can pass search rank. So those things are important. So how do I get started on Google Plus, right? So this, again, is like just best practices. Obviously, you all know you need a Gmail account. It's a no-brainer. But maybe you didn't know, and something that I find a lot of my clients have trouble with is, hey, you know what? I have multiple Gmail accounts. So make sure that you turn off Google Plus on any non-primary Gmail Google Plus accounts. You really just want to have one Google Plus account. And if you own a business, obviously, like I do, or you own multiple businesses like I do, then you want to have business pages. But that's something you just want to check out, because many times people have multiple Gmail accounts that they may have forgotten about. So it's just something for you to do. Have a Google Plus marketing strategy. So, you know, I'm a social media strategist, so I'm going to tell you to have a strategy and a plan. Why? Because it's going to, at the end of the day, save you time and money, right? So if you have no goals, or they're vague, and you have no plan, and you have no tactics, you're never going to get there, right? I probably don't need to tell you guys this, but it's really important that you have a strategy. Now, that could be like, okay, I want to contribute 1 post a day on something within this G Plus community I'm involved with. It might be as light as that. It might be as heavy as, you know what, I do events, I speak, I write, okay, and I want to post my articles. I want to make sure that every time I have an article, it's posted with this hashtag, right, and this link and this image, like in like natural content planning. So the thing is with Google Plus and really all the other social platforms is that they're dynamic, right? Things change every day. So you want to make sure that your headshot and your header are up to date. You can change those at any time. Also, Google Plus, just like YouTube, just because I'm in social media, all of them seem to change their dimensions a lot. of how things display, which is a big pain for people like me. But you want to make sure that those, that you're checking them like you would check your website for responsive design. Add in your contributions. So wherever you're writing on the internet, right, like Dale, I know, it's a big-time writer. So adding your contributions to that G+ profile. And then furthermore, then go out, like I write for ClickZ, for example. You should definitely be on ClickZ if you want to learn about internet marketing. And ClickZ Live and ClickZ University and all that. But anyway, so, I make sure on all my author pages all over the internet, New York Enterprise Report or wherever I'm writing, that they have my Google Plus profile there. And that my posts, right, are enabled with social sharing, including Google Plus ones. Something that you need to check on if you contribute to the internet. Creating your own business page, I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but, I don't know, does anybody here own a business? Are they the owner of a business? No? Okay, good. Then I don't have to spend too much time on it. All right, so, and then the other thing I tell everybody, whatever training I'm doing, always check your settings, right? A lot of people don't do that, and they get upset when something goes public. So it's really important that when you get into your profile that you check the settings, right? For what am I going to keep public? What am I going to keep private? Like, for example, Hangouts, right? I have it set so anybody can hang out with me. But I can then deny it if I want to, Some people will never check mark that, but I have to in my world, So it's important that you check your settings. All right, so your homepage and profile. So in the world, like Dale mentioned, I have a full-service interactive agency. So in the world of web design, UX, and CRO, right, we know that inherently the page on every website that gets the most traffic is what? The homepage, right? It's kind of a no-brainer. So it's really about cascading. So knowing that, Google Plus works in the same way for SEO. So what that means is your homepage and related profile are going to get the most visibility and get served up the most in the Google rankings. So what that means is your homepage really needs to be completed. That's why it's important that you spend time on your profile, because that can be publicly ranked. So your homepage is where you're going to put your status updates, right? It's where you're going to... You can display that homepage however you want to, but it's where you're going to be able to comment on things and get involved. It's where you're going to show your communities and get involved. So it's important that you post regularly, whatever that means to you. Everybody is different. Social media is definitely a 24/7, 365 job. That's all I can say about it. But so the use of hashtags, right, on your homepage and in your post is really important because this is how Google is going to find you. It's very simple. Like if we go back to the world of having a library, right, it's just like that index and categorizing. Or if you use WordPress, you'll know that you need to set up your categories, you need to set up your focus keyword, you need to set up your tags, right, for SEO. So it's the same thing with Google+. Plus ones of your posts are a huge factor in SEO signaling. It's not something that you can keep plus oneing yourself. You could, but that's not going to be that relevant, right? So the importance is what I was saying on the previous slide, which is to have good content, right? And the only way you can have good content is if you build a brand, you have a social media or a Google Plus plan, right? And you have content to fill that. So confirming your G+ profile, again, on the pages where you contribute to is very, very important. And then lastly, posting direct links within your post. So within your posts on Google+, you can post a direct link right after the title, okay, and then call up an associated image. That's the best way to post, rather than posting a link within a comment or within a description. These are like little teeny things, but they're important. So that's the homepage and profile. Now, hashtags and plus ones on G+, not to beat a dead horse, but these things are really, really important because they enable what's called a follow value. So I don't know how many of you are involved, like me, kind of in web development, but there's pages that we set as no follow, or things within Google Plus that are no follows, like certain discussions in communities. Plus ones and hashtags are things that drive visibility in search. So they're important, right? So if you think about hashtags, like I put an example of exploring Google Plus because that's the point of this presentation. You want to look at what's trending, just like you would in Twitter. And if you have a social media plan, right, you want to be seamless across all of your social media channels. So like for me, my LinkedIn URL is linkedin.com/n/online branding, right? Online branding is a keyword term that I focus on. I write a lot about it, right? So online branding is a hashtag. right, that I utilize in Google+, right, that supports what I'm doing in all these other social media channels. So that's kind of how you have to think about this. And then I think, you know, the plus ones, just so you know why they're so important, is they're relaying to Google, hey, you know what, this is shareable content, right? So just like you would measure, you know, analytics, I mean, like we do with KPIs, you want to see who's giving me a +1 and then support that person. Because again, to go back to my previous comment, it's about having a social ecosystem that's supportive. That's why you have to have the right people in it and do the right things. Okay. All right, so now I'm getting into my favorite piece here, which is about circles. Because this is really who's going to support you on Google+. Now, people in your circles can come from anywhere, right? They can come from people in this room. They could come from engagement in communities, right? Google+ communities. They can come from your network on LinkedIn. They could come from Facebook. They could come from Pinterest, whomever, right? They could come from Foursquare. But the key is you want to start like with a base of people that you know work for you in terms of your colleagues and influencers, right? Then you can discover within Google+, who else is on Google+, right? And as a category, you would mark them as someone that you're following, right? So I follow a lot of business leaders. My main target audience are CEOs, right? So I'm very involved with looking at business leaders, learning from them, engaging in CEO-related organizations like Vistage International, the CEO Club, all of these folks. So really, who is your target audience, right? And then who, primary, secondary, right? And then who is it that is an influencer in your network? So within Google+, you can actually search for folks in there. Because, as I mentioned before, it's a layered service, you can import, obviously, from Gmail. So, and YouTube. So many ways you can kind of find who your influencers are. And then similar to LinkedIn, if you're familiar with LinkedIn tagging, to segment who your audience is, you can then, within circles, name what groups are related to that. So you kind of know when you send out a message or a post on Google+, you have all the opportunities to choose which group you want it to go to, right? It can be if I'm promoting a hangout or a post, right? I can send it to the public. I can send it to a community that I'm in, like this community, right? I put out, whenever I set this up on Google+ or Google Hangout, I connected to New York Women in Communications in their community. So just examples of things that you can do. And really, as you're engaged in circles, it's really about sharing content. So this is why you need to get to know your circles, and that's how you can start to segment them, because you want to share content that's relevant to them. Like I have multiple groups on LinkedIn that I own, right? One of them being the New York City Business Owner Group. And so I know the things that they are interested in, right? I try to give them as much as they need, but I can't give them more than what I do in social media, right? So, so you want to deliver content that you know is helpful, because that's really important. Again, it's an ecosystem that supports itself. And then G+ communities, right? So I mentioned before, G+ communities and involvement with them is really important, because the streams and the posts within Google+ communities are picked up. They pass through the search rank, right? So I actually just started, I have a couple of communities I run, but this one I just started about online branding for executives. So the whole reason I'm doing this is I'm always finding stories, right, about leadership, and I'm always commenting on it. I'm like, wait, why don't I just have my own community? Where I didn't find an exact match of the community that I wanted, so I started my own. And I know it's going to be a lot of work, but it's something that I do anyway, right? So you want to think about, okay, if I'm going to either A, get involved with the community, right, and you can search within Google+ for related communities, or B, you want to start your own, right? It has to be something you have a lot of interest in it. So that's why you want to first start by searching hashtags to see what's relevant, what's going on, what am I interested in, what's my area of practice, right? And again, these are things that are ranked by hashtags. So again, to go back to the social media planning is really important, right? The other thing, like if you're involved with LinkedIn, for example, they're very analogous to me, so I just bring LinkedIn up a lot because it's my favorite social media tool. But so you can, just like on LinkedIn groups, you can actually review the members in Google+ communities and connect with them. But unlike LinkedIn, you can actually go right in, connect with them in Gmail and have a live conversation. It is a great business development tool, believe me. So I can't talk enough about Google+ communities, but it's really up to you to understand, like, where do you want to play in the sandbox? Where are the influencers in your world? Google Plus Hangouts have multiple applications. Okay, a Google Plus Hangout, you can pre-record a Google Plus Hangout, right, and use it to then stream on YouTube. You can optimize it for search. You can do that like we're doing today with a Hangout on Air. You can do that as a meeting, so you don't have a meeting tool like Join Meeting or GoToMeeting or Skype or the millions of other products, Citrix, biggest products that are out there. So you can actually host a meeting. So once you do a Google Hangout and you optimize it within YouTube, it becomes something that passes through to search, because today we're talking about leveraging Google Plus for search. But beyond that, Google Plus Hangouts, if you're not familiar with them, are really a great way to teach. They're a great way to deliver meetings. They're a great way to drive branding. So I do a lot of online branding with CEOs. Maybe they don't have the time to sit down and do a full-on interview or a video. You could call them and do an interview through Google Plus and record that. That's pretty cool stuff. So how do you use Google Plus to build business? So beyond, SEO, right? If you are representing a company in any way and you're responsible for building their visibility on Google Plus, one of the things that's elementary is, because Google Plus is tied into all its own products, all of the Google products, right? That you want to make sure that your business is listed in what's called Google Places or local listings, if you're not familiar with it. Google local listings or places are directly tied into what's called reviews in Google Plus. So you may or may have not noticed, because you said you've been on Google Plus for 2 years or something, that within your homepage you can actually have a reviews tab, and within that reviews tab it will start to track where you've posted reviews for local businesses. So if one of your clients has a local business, you really should use that, because it's a great way of marketing them, right? Also, if you want to call to a great experience that you've had and share it with your influencers, because it's not just about using Google Plus for business, it's also getting people engaged with you based on interests, right? So maybe, for example, I speak in Chicago quite a bit, and I found my favorite area to stay in the South Loop. So there's a couple of hotels there that we stay at, and so I'm writing reviews about the hotels. Why? For multiple reasons. One is that I do a lot of business in Chicago, so it helps me actually start to interact with people in Chicago, even though I don't live there. So just, these things for business are really important. Also, obviously, I talked about promoting events, right? So you can promote events through Google Hangout and invite the public. Like I mentioned before, that embedded base is 500 million people, right? Not saying that they'll all join, but the opportunities are very vast to expand your circles and your network. And then, most of my work is involved with building thought leadership. And Google Plus is a great way to do that. Why? Because these are full-on discussions that people are having. So if you know where it is you want to drive visibility around yourself or your client, Google Plus is a great way to share tips and tricks, articles, videos, and they give you all the tools that you could possibly ever need to do that. So it's a fantastic way to build thought leadership if it's targeted. And then finally, for business, you can drive brand promotions off-page. I gave you an example with Starbucks, which is across the street, but there's many examples of companies that are using Google Plus to, what we did when I started in social media, highlight someone within the community, right, and then deliver a promotion with a link to something off page. So it'll go to their website to say, hey, you know what, you're involved with this in my Google Plus page, go here and you'll get whatever coupon or whatever it is. So it's a very good way to do that for businesses. Okay, so you say, you know what, this is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Social media is a lot of work. I can't even say it enough. It's just so much work, times infinity. But here's some sample things that you can do on a daily basis. However it is you want to start, whatever your time schedule looks like, however you manage your own time. But things that you should certainly be doing to do what? How to leverage Google Plus as an SEO vehicle, right? Share and promote events. If you guys are in PR, right, this should be a no-brainer. Sharing and promoting events is really easy. Sharing original articles. So I put original here. Why? Because anybody can, have a Feedly account or connect with the LinkedIn Pulse program and push out other people's content. But where you really drive thought leadership for you or your clients is really about sharing original articles that have a strategy in mind. Writing local business reviews, I talked about that a little bit, but that's important, especially with clients that are local. I actually have some clients that are local, so we do that. Deliver and record G+ Hangout meetings. okay? That's also really important, and you can just test it. You know, I mean, the first time I did one, I was so nervous. I was like, oh, how is this going to come out? You know, it's going to look ridiculous. But, you know, it's fine. I mean, marketing is all about testing anyway, right? So what you do is you find a group of people that you know really well, and you say, hey, you know what, guys, I want to test this Hangout. And just test it with your friends. It's a good way for you to, like, put your foot in the water with this whole thing. Engage in targeted G+ communities. I mean, if you're not all totally engaged with the New York Women in Communications community, I mean, you're in the group, so you should be. There are ways that you can become a leader and an influencer within groups, which is really, really important if you're looking to build a career in communications. Comment and share your circle's content, right? So it's not just about your content, but it's also about the people that are in your circles. So again, it really depends on your schedule, which I'm not going to manage, but you know, on a daily basis, like for example, with LinkedIn, I look at the stream. With Google+, I go to the homepage and I see what are people talking about. You could even then select which circle you care about, really, right? So for me, it's like my media circle, right? Who are the reporters that I want to engage with? So I spend a lot of time mining their data and listening to what they're saying. And then finding and participating in other Hangouts. So what's really cool about Google+ is you can actually search for Hangouts that happen all the time. So again, a great learning tool, like we talked about that. And you should always be looking to extend your circles, right? Similar to, I'm sure you all use Twitter very well, but similar to Twitter, right? So extending your circles does what? It does so many things. It helps you drive opportunities to drive personalized search result ranking to those circles and engage in an extended way with their circles. So it's good stuff. So I've developed a Google+ daily action plan, if you're interested, and it's going to be live on my site on Thursday because I've been building this whole shop that we were talking about. And really, you know, I think that you should start in Google+, and then if this is something that you need, it's just like something you can put on your desk and you can say, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z today very specifically. And it's much broader than just for SEO, but it will help you to do the first thing, which is to enhance your G+ profile. Right? That's like just like LinkedIn, that's really the first thing. You want to take this all in and then go look at your Google+ profile and say, okay, is this really what is a story, because they call it a story in Google+, in your about, which is something that's directly related to search rank. Does this really talk about me now, right? Like when I talk to Dale, you know, she's known me for a while, but now I've advanced, right? So what I was doing 5 years ago is much different than today, right, where I am. So you want to make sure that all of that stuff is current, from your headshot, which hopefully Kim's taking today, your header, your profile, all the things are current, right? Sharing G+ content is also important. So just like you would do with Pinterest or Facebook or those more fun social networks, you're finding engaging quotes, right? You're finding very cool imagery. These are things you can share in Google+, and Google+, I think, makes it a lot better because you can directly share video. And video is really the key to drive search engine optimization moving forward in the future. So, and as you're sharing content, it gives you the ability to get really noticed by others. So really that's it, you know. I'm here to answer any questions. I don't know how much time we took. I didn't